Summer is here, and that means trips to the beach, days in the sun, and plenty of Carolina blue skies. It's also the busiest season for buying and selling homes, so it's the Sharp Mortgage team's favorite time of year. Are you thinking of buying a home this summer in our beautiful area of the Triad of North Carolina? Well, look no further than Highlands Mortgage, where exceptional service meets unwavering dedication. They understand that purchasing a home is more than just a transaction. It's a milestone. Their team ensures your experience is smooth, responsive, and genuinely caring from start to finish. So why buy a home this summer with them? Well, you get personalized customer service. They pride themselves on offering great customer service tailored to your unique needs. Their responsiveness is unmatched. They're always just a call or email away, ready to promptly address any questions or concerns. And of course, you'll get expert guidance. You can rely on their knowledge and over 20 years of experience to navigate the often complicated world of home buying with confidence and ease. Summer's the perfect time to find your dream home in Winston-Salem, Greensboro, or anywhere in the North Carolina Triad. Let the Sharp Mortgage team guide you every step of the way. With their caring and responsive mortgage team, make your home buying journey this summer memorable. Just call 336-575-9448 to get started. 336-575-9448.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.
Hey everyone, it's a summer real estate episode with our guy Blake Ginther. You can't see him, but I can, and he is wearing a very summery type of shirt. What you rocking there, my man?
Dude, these are some pineapples, right? I just got pineapple on my shirt.
Yeah, very summer themed shirt. People are listening to this after Father's Day, after the US Open. So, we can't necessarily do a bunch of golf talk and Father's Day plans, but it's weird because I'm asking you to look into the future as we're also talking in the past when people are listening to this. But what is the ideal Father's Day for you?
Yeah, I think it would be it would probably be golf with Jack and Maren one day, but for now she's 6, so Jack. It would be an activity I love with my family. Yeah. And then chilling, watching golf with my family. Yeah.
Very similar. I'm like you. I don't need just like a day of me time. Like if it's Father's Day, I want the day to be about being a dad, which means being with your family, with your kids. So to each their own. But I think you and I are kind of similar in terms of what we want to do. All right. So we are now, if the school is out for everybody, we are into summer and we'll be this way for another couple of months. So where are things standing right now? Are we in kind of like summer doldrums in terms of real estate? What's been happening now that we've entered these really warm months?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, and this is probably the last year that it's going to be this way, but with school in Forsyth County just getting out last week, it did, and now you feel it. Like you feel like half the county is on vacation already. Like people were like, "Woo, we're out." Now next year with Forsyth County getting out on Memorial Day, I think that could happen sooner, which wouldn't be a bad thing. But right now. Usually, I was just saying this to a conversation with another agent. Usually, it feels this way in middle of July. It actually is a little earlier this year. Here we are, like middle of June, and it feels like middle of July. It feels like half the county's on vacation. Yeah. You drive around, the roads are empty. It's definitely a little quieter, and there's less activity in real estate because that's what happens when. It goes, now there are people coming to Winston specifically to find their houses, but it does feel like half of the locals are out of town.
Yeah. And I think that's just because we have a shorter summer this year. As like you mentioned, Our county, Forsyth County, is making this transition to a different calendar, but that means that we have we have 2 weeks less of summer break. And so people are getting their vacations in earlier potentially. Sure. But with that, the feds have said that rates are going to kind of stay where they are right now. And this has been what you've predicted on this podcast for several months now, which is if people are waiting for rates to go down, you're going to have to be pretty patient.
Yeah, yes, they're going to continue to be disappointed until probably this fall. And I do think, again, for political purposes, in 2 months, the next conversation will be in late August, early September. I think they will announce that they're going to drop a quarter or something along those lines, or a small drop, just to give a political victory.
Get a win,
right?
yeah, right before the
Even
election, yeah.
even though the Fed is not tied to a political party, yada yada yada, it will probably magically do it, whether anything has changed or not. And I don't anticipate there will be much economic change. I do think that you're seeing, though, I mean, part of what we were discussing before we hit record is people's contentment with their jobs in general and like life. I do think that for me personally, I know a lot of people in all kinds of industries where I think change got a bit extreme for several years, both with hopping houses. I can't get a contractor to put on a screen and porch. All right, I'm moving. Right?
Yeah.
That happened. I mean, dude, I'm one of those people, right? We were like, don't like our laundry room and I really want a screen and porch. Yeah, dang, so expensive. Oh, it's so far out. We moved, right? Well, and I know a lot of people who've literally hopped jobs 3 or 4 times in that COVID stretch. So that's slowing massively. And these interest rates have slowed on purpose, people moving willy-nilly style. So bottom line, I do think that there is less movement, less changing, and for a lot of people, they're like, that's just a new adjustment.
What do you tend to say to these people? Because we've talked about some of the more popular reasons why people move. Could be job, could be marriage, could be divorce. We've had
death.
Yeah, right. We've had an episode, at least one episode, where we really tackled some of that stuff. But what about the people that just say, I just feel like I need a change. I need something different. Or some people subscribe to a theory that you should change houses every 10 years. What do you say to the folks that don't have a major life event, but they feel like they want to move because I just need something different. I just need a change.
I had this conversation with a close friend this week. And to that, I say, you better, like, before you do anything seismic, you should really go, and not to get all deep on us, Adam, here on a triad, on a real estate podcast, but you need to go internal. I mean, you really need to ask yourself, what changes do I want? And is it an external thing or is it an internal thing? Like, one of my friends was really considering, really successful individual, making a pretty big change from a professional perspective. And after like 45 minutes of talking, and I'm close enough friends with him, I could just say, be honest with you, man, I think that's a you thing. And I think that no matter where you go right now, that you thing is going to follow you. And I think that society, a lot of people just need to find whatever it is that is making them not content, and fix that before they try to fix it with an external change. Yeah.
And that could be, like you said, it's not necessarily about moving houses. It could be, like you said, changing jobs, changing locations. I don't know about you, but I subscribe to the theory that the grass is greener where you water it, right?
Absolutely, yes. And as we get to the heat of North Carolina, amen. Like,
yeah, you better water that grass.
You better be watering that grass with sheep dead.
These last few days, it's starting to brown. So
I have been watering and it is still browning. But yes, that's a great phrase. And honestly, dude, that is so I just turned 44. Right, I just turned 44.
Happy belated, by the way.
Thank you very much. And I am finally getting old enough to come to peace with the fact of this conversation, right? And it is, I mean, there's an aging element, because a lot of my friends who are struggling with it are between the ages of 38 and 50. And they're just struggling with contentment in general. And you're like, I mean, you're not alone. And like, it isn't an external changing jobs is probably not going to change that. Honestly, for some of you, it might, but for most people, it's not. Moving, not going to change that.
And part of that too is because the perfect house doesn't exist. Like the flaws that you find in your home, you're going to find other flaws wherever you go. And if you don't find them immediately, they're going to eventually, the things that you don't like, the things that are giving you trouble, those things will start, not maybe the same thing, but you'll start to feel those same way about other things in that home.
For sure. And look, I have had a client who has moved a handful of times over the last decade, and really we've known all along he strongly desires privacy and never got it, right. He actually kind of left privacy, and then every move he never found that privacy that he had, and guess what? He's moving to privacy. So okay, that's a little different. Like if you've been wanting something and not getting it, that's different. But most people, it's we're talking minor things, right? Minor things, and looking like an external major change will get them that minor change. Now, get out of here. Get out of here.
You know, it's interesting. The most recent financial podcast that we just did with Jennifer Johnson, the topic was revolving around a Wall Street Journal article, which is called "What Was I Thinking?" and the things that people have buyer's remorse about. And what we were talking about in terms of her outlook or the way she approaches his large purchases is, does it remove a negativity in your life? And in the case of the person you were just talking about, they didn't have the privacy that they felt that they needed. That was a negative in their life, and their purchase solved that negative. And so from that standpoint, yeah, it's probably the smart move.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's funny. Okay, follow me. I'm plugging two books that I have no financial ties to, but
yeah, let's go.
I'm gonna what we're discussing is I'm reading right now in a great book that if you are between the age of, I'm gonna say 35 to probably 50 or early 50s, Strength to Strength is a great book about aging and finding additional professional growth, right? So really great book. And then to the financial element, Die with Zero is a book that I heavily encourage everybody to read. And it's not what you think. It's not a carpe diem book. It doesn't literally mean like die with no money. It's not that. It is about life and spending and saving appropriately in different phases of life, and how we're taught, honestly, a lot of times incorrectly, right? The average American basically is ready to help their family, right, and provide for them shortly before they die, right? And which means their children are typically at a point in their lives when they don't need their money.
Yeah.
Typically, right? If you think about it. Anyways, we're going down a financial, not a real estate podcast conversation. And you asked me a phenomenal question that I want us to get to. I just want to plug those two books because they've really had big impacts on my mental wiring on this topic.
Yeah. We'll post links to those books in the show notes. We always encourage, though, if you are going to buy those books, don't buy from Amazon. Go to Bookmarks. Go to Book Ferret. Go to a local bookstore and get them from there.
Amen.
So, okay. So the question that you just referenced is something I was reading something. This was back on Wednesday, and I made a mental note of it to ask you on this week's episode. There was a recent analysis done by Bankrate, and it went into we talk about the cost of homes, like what it costs to purchase a home, what it costs, interest rate, like what's your mortgage going to be. But this dug into what's the cost when you've purchased the home. Now, what's the cost of being a homeowner? And this is insurance premiums, this is maintenance, this is property taxes, utilities, all of that. And overall, the takeaway was that the tab on all of those costs in owning a home has since 2020 has gone up about 26%. Now that's nationally, and there are some states they referenced Hawaii, California, Massachusetts. North Carolina is not one of the ones they referenced, but those are the biggest costs of all of those things, and maybe a big reason why that number is so high in terms of the rise. And so I really just have a question to you, which is, what is your take and your own analysis when looking at it locally of the increased costs of owning a home once you're actually in it, and what are you seeing there?
Yeah, no, it's gone up. I mean, no doubt it has. Insurance is a challenge right now. We were just here with an insurance company that I fully disclose every contract that we write. That my company has ownership of. Right, we started a company in the insurance world, and I've gotten a pretty close glance at what that industry looks like, and it's gotten more expensive. They are losing billions of dollars on house insurance, on home insurance. So most insurance carriers are basically making it impossible for you to write through them, and just getting out of the home insurance market, because they're losing so much. And it's always been a loser. They make their money on car insurance. So side note, if you're buying a home, you're probably going to have to change your car insurance as well, right? You typically, everybody knows the bundle thing. It's a real thing. Yeah. So the insurance costs have gone up, man. I mean, I would say that's fair. Here's what I'll say, though. If you're a homeowner, your home values have gone up realistically anywhere from minimum 50 to 60 to maybe 100%, right? So if your costs have gone up 20%, the good news is you have equity. The bad news is if your job hasn't gone up 20%, then your costs have, you're feeling the pinch. And I think that's fair for the majority of people.
Yeah, that is really the issue here. It's not that, we don't want to say, yeah, every costs have gone up everywhere. It's not just insurance, your groceries, food, everything you do in your everyday life, it's gone up. Inflation has hit everybody in some way. But yeah, your income, your annual raises or whatever it is that at your job, that has not been in lockstep with the rising costs. But yeah, insurance, that's a big one. And, this references that, rising home insurance premiums and maintenance are the main culprits for the increased costs. And, they just say insurance premiums have skyrocketed. And it's now more so in areas where they have natural disasters frequently, earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes. And North Carolina is maybe better when it comes to that. Not as bad as like South Florida or California. Sure. But still, a lot of the companies that that people do business with from the insurance standpoint, they might be national insurance companies. Yeah. And so, but premiums just seem to keep going up and up when it comes to insurance. And more of the ads that I hear now in terms of insurance companies, it doesn't tend to be advertising their home policies. It's car, it's boats, it's RVs, it's right.
They don't love the house, the housing industry. And I mean, there are a lot of, I think there's been a lot of manipulation. It's the kindest word I can use, around roof hail damage, especially specifically in our area. I think that people are like, there's been some abuse there. And so it's been, I think, it's a loser for insurance companies. And I'll say this and this is a wildly unpopular thing for a realtor to say out loud on a real estate podcast, but the challenge is, for several years there, it was more expensive to rent. It legitimately was more expensive to rent. Currently, our rental market has softened a little bit, and I don't think I can say that. I don't think I can tell people that it is more expensive to rent in our area than buy. That doesn't mean that it's the financial right decision for some people, but it might be for some. It really might be. And I would say if people are in a feeling financial pinch and they own a home with a lot of equity, and they go, yeah, but I could sell, but everything I buy is so much more. And yeah, I mean, if there's a chance that you could physically move or a job might make, then it might be worth selling, utilizing that cash if you feel like you're financially, smart enough to put it aside, right, and not just go crazy with the $100,000 or $200,000 that you might make from your sale, and ride out what will probably be a 2 or 3 year financially, I don't know what the right word is, tricky market, right?
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a year or 2 or 3 of what will be an economically tough environment.
It's time to get serious about your financial future. It's never too early, but it could be too late to get started. And that's oftentimes the hardest part, getting started. How much do I save? Where do I invest? Do I save for college or retirement? How much for each? And who do I talk to about it all? Okay, we'll keep things simple for now and help you answer the last one. We recommend you begin with a local financial advisor, and that's Jennifer Johnson of Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. She'll sit down with you for a complimentary introductory consultation and go over all of your questions. Get started on the path to achieving your financial goals. Visit 3magnoliasfinancialadvisors.com or call 336-701-1600. Get comfortable with your financial future. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Retirement, financial planning, and investments. Securities offered through Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors and Cetera Advisor Networks are not affiliated. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity.
If somebody is looking around, and we haven't really tackled this from this perspective, but because we're talking about increased premiums and home insurance, how much of that can be mitigated if you look for the right things in a home? Maybe the home just recently got a new roof. The things that an insurance company would see, okay, this is a risky proposition for us. The premium is going to be much larger than what it would be otherwise. So I would imagine newer construction would help there, right? Not buying an old home, but what kind of things could people be looking at if they're trying to say, okay, I got to try to make sure that I'm not going to get gouged on my insurance premiums for my home.
Yeah, roof is the number one thing.
Yeah.
Roof is the number one challenge locally. But I want to say too, you will find a carrier. You just be flexible with the fact that it might make sense that you'll have to, whether you like your insurance person or not, you might have to find a new one. And the guy who bought that, who's getting that privacy, had the same, he's having to change everything. Because he's buying a house that has a 40-year shingle that is 25 years old, and most people aren't going to carry that, right? But so, and by the way, if he had to replace this roof, it'd be like $30,000. So he's not going to just replace a roof that's fine. That has 10 or 15 more years life. So, it's such an interesting conversation. It's so rare that you hear a realtor say maybe you should rent, or maybe you should, be mindful of opening up an equity line at minimum, or, which I say all the time, or cash out refinancing if you can utilize and need to give yourself a break. Because most people I talk to, they got equity. Challenge is equity don't pay the grocery bill.
Right. Right. Yeah. And there are a lot of different non-real estate things we could talk about related to those particular issues. But here, yeah, I mean, it's you're right. I mean, if you can get your auto and your home bundled together, it'll save you some money, because what the companies really want is your car insurance and not necessarily your home insurance. But if you say, I'll give you my car insurance business with the home insurance, then, you'd be better off on the home side.
And again, side note, Adam, we've gotten so off track from real estate, but I'll just say this is pertinent to real estate in this sense of,
yes,
of just being able to afford things. It is still there are a lot of people being 50, $10 to $50 to death. And the mindset of like, I mean, is $50 really going to make it or break it? So I'm not going to let go of my Netflix. I'm not going to let go of my blanky blank. And it's like, okay, but I mean, if you're saying that like to 5 or 10 or 15 things, it is literally going to be the difference between whether you can buy or not, potentially.
It all comes back to real estate. I mean, it really does. Come on.
We've gotten into philosophy and financials a lot, and like if you end up renting, if you end up making choices that make you unable to buy or unwilling to buy, or maybe you shouldn't buy right now, the challenge is I come across almost weekly somebody who it's changed their life financially forever. They bought a house. And then in 3 years' time, that house has doubled in value, and they can now sell and go to their next location with $135,000. And these people had literally never had more than like a couple grand in their bank account. It's a life-changing event.
Yes, it's and we tackled that in our previous episode. So if you want to hear more just about if you're looking at renting or buying, I mean, that was the Suck It Up Buttercup episode in terms of people that, I mean, that probably had the financial means to buy, but they chose to rent. And it's like, what are you doing? So
I got a couple texts, by the way. So a couple people listened to it because I got a couple texts. Thanks, Buttercup.
Good. All right. Well, let's close with this. I'm going to make you sound incredibly smart or very unintelligent when it comes to your golf picks, because today, the day of recording is round 2 of the U.S. Open at beautiful Pinehurst, number 2. People are probably going to be listening to this after the tournament is over, unless they go to an 18-hole Monday playoff. Who is going to win the U.S. Open?
I'm sure I'm wrong, and I'm going to make a.
I'll give you this one. It ain't going to be Scotty Scheffler because he's about to miss the cut.
He will miss the cut. He will.
Yeah.
And you know what? He's human. Good for you, Scott.
Yeah.
I honestly believe Rory. I honestly believe Rory is going to do it. And
good pick.
I think he'll fall back. I haven't paid attention. I know I saw he was falling back. I think he'll fall back a little bit today, but so will everybody because it's going to be tough out there. I think that I think he's due. I think he's playing very, very well. If I had to put all the money on one player, it would be Rory. But I think it very well could be somebody that most of America doesn't know.
That's happened before at Pinehurst. Matt Campbell. The people haven't heard of Matt Campbell.
And most of Americans.
Michael Campbell. I got his name wrong.
See,
Michael Campbell.
You didn't even know the dude's name.
I got his first name wrong. That's
most
how
of
random.
America didn't know Martin Keimer either, and don't anymore because he plays on Live. So, and he's been a very average dude his whole career. I mean, good average pro, and he won. Pinehurst is. Have you ever played number 2?
I have 3 times actually.
You lucky man. I played it once, and if I hadn't had a caddy telling me, I actually am not a good ball striker. I'm a pretty decent putter, and those greens are nothing like anything on planet Earth.
Unbelievable.
They're unbelievable. And I had a caddy tell me to put it to a certain area, and I was like, dude, I had it like 5 feet over there. And he was like, well, you would have been off the green. So unlike anything I've ever played.
It is totally unique, and we're seeing some of the best players in the world get humbled by it today. Scotty Scheffler is one of them. He double bogeyed the easiest hole on the course, a par 5 in the second round because of something around the greens. So
yeah, I've been in meetings. I missed it.
Yeah. All right. So Rory's your pick, and if folks are listening to this and everything is played out exactly the way that you have said, just know this was recorded on Friday. Let's give either Blake his props, or let's give Blake his shame for being completely wrong.
I'm probably gonna be wrong.
All right, my man. Enjoyed the conversation as always. Enjoy your summer. We'll catch back up in July. Okay.
Appreciate you, man.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode on the Triad Podcast Network. Our mission is simple: provide information, advice, and stories about the people and places that make the North Carolina Triad such a great place to be. You can find us by searching Triad Podcast Network on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much wherever you like to listen. If you like what you heard and want to support the show and those that contribute, we would truly appreciate a rating and review on your favorite podcast app. It helps spread the word along, as do your shares on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Triad Podcast. To get in touch with us, simply email info@triadpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.